Hello everybody. Today I wanted to do a video about my acne journey. Talk about my acne a little bit in my book. If you want to read more about it, you can check out my book. It's available at veganacnesufferers.com, and I'm also going to link it down below in the description. Let's start the story all the way back at the beginning. I didn't have any acne growing up. I had fairly clear skin. I've always had fairly oily skin, as much as I recall. I didn't really start getting any pimples until I got into about grade 8, grade 9, so I was about 12 or 13 at that time. I had some acne just on my forehead. Nothing really bad, mostly just hormonal acne. I didn't really have any acne on my cheeks or my chin or anything like that. It was mostly just concentrated all across my forehead, and it was very persistent. Around 16 or 17, I was in a serious kind of committed relationship, and when I went to see my doctor, he recommended that I get on birth control. I didn't really see any reason to disagree with my doctor, and he kind of enticed me with promises of, you know, my skin clearing up a little bit and having regular periods and all this other stuff. And so I kind of got excited about it, thinking that it was going to change my life. So I went on Yasmin, and I was on that for about 6.5 years with perfectly flawless skin. Like, when I say flawless, I literally mean flawless. My skin was never oily. I never got pimples. My skin always looked like I didn't even have to wear makeup. I don't even think I wore makeup ever, because my skin was so consistent and flawless. With my flawless skin, I was happy, I was content, I was arrogant and vain and everything I never wanted to be in my life, but everything I turned into. I never really thought much about skin problems until I started getting them in, I want to say 2012. I had ended a relationship, and I kind of took it extremely hard. I suffered with a lot of body image issues, and it was around that time that I started breaking out more consistently like I had when I was a teenager. This meant, you know, mostly just the occasional pimple. It wasn't anything full-blown. It was just stress pimples, I think. I think that's what triggered it, was a majorly stressful event in my life. So now that I was getting regular pimples, I was stressing out more because I had had flawless skin for the past 6.5 years, and I wasn't coping well with how my skin was reacting to this stressful situation. Not to mention the fact that I wasn't eating very well, and I was suffering from other body issues. I've talked a bit about before how I struggled with an eating disorder during this time. I would go literally days without eating, and I don't think that my eating disorder stemmed from body issues so much as it stemmed from my anxiety and depression about the events with my prior spouse. Either way, at this time, I was dealing with the acne, and I had also, I think this was around the time I started kind of freaking out about my skin and slathering it with things in an attempt to get rid of the pimples I was getting. And so my skin kind of just progressively got worse from there. And that was due to the fact that I was using things that were inappropriate for my skin. I was using things that weren't meant for skin. I was using products not like too harsh for my skin, or products that weren't, you know, ideal for my skin type. Then I got into a new relationship. P.S. I married him. I was happy. I was, you know, experiencing love again. I was excited about all the prospects of what the future was going to hold. And my skin started improving. So my skin started to improve because of my improved quality of life, I guess. And I started kind of caring about myself again. And it was also around this time that I decided I wanted to get off birth control. It had something to do with the fact that I thought I wanted children, and I thought that getting off birth control would somehow prepare my body for insemination. And that was kind of, I think, the driving factor in me wanting to get off birth control. And I think I was also misled to believe that, you know, I had to become more natural and pure, and that meant, you know, being free of any exogenous hormones. And while there's nothing wrong with wanting to get off birth control, I think I did it for the wrong reasons. I did it for misinformed reasons. And I'm not sad that I got off of the pill. I mean, to this day, it's been almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in February, that I've been off the pill. And I feel fantastic. I feel, you know, normal. And oh my god, my face blew up with acne. Like literally within 2 or 3 days of getting off the pill, I had at least 7 or 8 pimples. And as time went on, it was like every new minute, it felt like brought a new pimple. Realistically, it was probably more like every 2 or 3 days I would get a couple new pimples. And that this was catastrophic for me. Going from perfectly flawless skin, being so arrogant about myself and how I looked and about others, to having acne on every square inch of my forehead, every square inch of my cheeks and my chin. I had acne everywhere. Now, this is the time in my life where everything still feels very crisp in my memory. It feels like it was just yesterday that I was coping with this. And I remember everything really specifically because it left such a deep emotional scar on me that I don't think I'll ever really forget anything that happened during this time. Because I was getting off birth control, I specifically remember that this was a time in my life when I was thinking like natural is best. Like I need to be my own person. I need to rid myself of all these icky things in the world around us. And that meant that I was really freaking out about what I was putting in my body. So I really did improve my diet. I went from like drinking Pepsis and eating chips all day to, you know, eating things that I would never have eaten before just because I knew that they were healthy and I wanted to be healthy. So this was a major turning point actually in my life for me, eating things that were out of my comfort zone. I was a terribly picky eater before. I didn't like anything. Like I think I lived on rice and Kraft Dinner and Pizza Pops before. I was starting to realize that my taste buds and what I thought I wanted to eat wasn't as important as what I was feeding my body, what I needed to eat to thrive. And while this wasn't really the tipping point for me understanding my acne or understanding how what I eat affects my acne, it was the point in my life in which I started caring about what I put in my body and realizing that what I ate would impact how I looked and how I felt and how I thrived as a person. And my skin was still getting worse no matter the fact that I thought I was eating healthier. I was eating more vegetables, but that wasn't enough because it wasn't fixing the problem. It was feeding me better, but it wasn't fixing the problem. And I started going online and researching these things, and I'm like, oh,
let's try evening primrose oil, let's try biotin, let's try burdock root, let's try this intestinal flush, let's try this, let's try that.
And I had a lot of problems at this time. Number one, I wasn't trying things long enough. Not that I think any of them would have helped me had I tried them any longer, but I think I only gave things like a week or two, and if they didn't work, I was like,
get this out of here.
And I think that caused a lot of unnecessary damage to my skin. These supplements I was taking would have at least needed 3 months to take effect. You know, when people say, oh, I started taking this supplement and it worked after like 3 days, it's like, did it really? Or is that just the placebo effect? It takes time for things like this to get into your body and actually start changing the way things function. And I was also using supplements that had no evidence that they worked at all whatsoever. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence out there about how certain things work, and it's not that these things may not work, it's that there's no evidence that they work, not at this point. And for me, now, that's enough reason to stay away from something. I know that in our most desperate moments, we're willing to try anything. We are like,
oh, I don't care if this may not work, I need to try it because there's some anecdotes out there for people who say they've cleared their skin using this.
But if something hasn't been tested to show it does anything, it also likely hasn't been tested to show that it's safe. I don't necessarily think I did any damage to my body per se doing the things I did and taking the supplements I took, but like I did take too much of something. Like I did not care what the recommended doses were. I was reading these anecdotes from people online saying,
I cleared my skin with 50 milligrams of zinc every day.
And 50 milligrams of zinc every day is too much zinc. It's too much. I specifically remember taking 50 milligrams of zinc and then taking 100 milligrams of zinc soon after that because I wasn't seeing the results I wanted to see. So when zinc didn't work after a week, I went to burdock root. And when burdock root didn't work for a week, I went to this intestinal flush. And then I tried, evening primrose oil and borage seed oil and all of these different supplements that literally did nothing for my skin. And I wasted, I don't even want to know how much money on it. The point is that I was wasting money on all of these false hopes and false promises of clear skin when all I had to do was look at the facts and not at the anecdotes. There are anecdotes out there that, rubbing your own urine on your skin will clear your acne, and there's no scientific evidence for urine therapy, but people do it because there are anecdotes. There's one person out there saying,
I rubbed urine all over my face and it cleared my skin.
Somebody's going to try it. It's a ripple effect. They say, somebody else got results, I want those results. This was also around the time that I started seeing a dermatologist, and of course the first thing he recommended to me was antibiotics. And I remember my face feeling so swollen and tight, and it felt like it was on fire. My whole face burned every second of the day. It was the most painful experience. It was almost like I got a Botox injection and I couldn't move my face. And if I moved it or I made a facial expression, my skin would like crack and it would feel like little poofs of fire on my face every time I moved. So needless to say, I did not take the antibiotics for very long. I stopped taking them probably within 4 or 5 days. And do I think that antibiotics would have cleared my skin permanently had I kept taking them? 110% no. I am so positive that it would not have helped me, that I'm glad I did not do any lasting damage to my body by taking them for extended periods of time. If you are taking antibiotics for, say, 3 months and your skin clears up and then you get off of it and your acne comes back, do not go back on antibiotics. It's not going to clear your skin. It's not going to be the solution to your problems. If there's one thing I'm thankful for in my acne journey, it is that I did not stick to antibiotics, and I'm glad that I branched out and I looked into other avenues. While I started taking these natural supplements, I also started using more natural skincare. So I ditched my Clean and Clear, I ditched my Noxzema, and I started using things like olive oil, jojoba, grapeseed oil, hemp seed oil, lemon, baking soda, all these things. I started oil cleansing, which did help my skin. It improved like the texture and how my skin felt. I didn't feel like my skin was tight or inflamed or itchy or anything like that because my skin did need moisture. I was drying the shit out of my skin with things like lemon and baking soda and burning masks and Lord knows what else. I was damaging my skin probably more than I can imagine. And so these oils helped in that way. But I still wasn't seeing any results. I was doing everything I thought I had to do. I was, using natural products like supplements. I was using natural products on my skin. I wasn't using anything store-bought. And I wasn't really seeing the results I wanted to see. And I felt like even if I was making a little bit of progress, I would end up taking a couple of steps backwards in the long run because I still wasn't addressing the root cause of my acne. So it was also around this time that I started thinking more about my diet and my stress. I started doing more actual research, not like looking on blogs and seeing what these forums had to say, like,
well, try urine therapy, try period blood on your face.
I was doing actual research. It meant I was searching through these medical journals, I was searching through these databases with all of this wealth of knowledge on acne causes, on acne treatments, and I was starting to get a real understanding of why I had acne in the first place. The reason I had such flawless skin and the reason that these birth control pills are often prescribed for women with hormonal acne is because they are high in estrogen. I had all of these wonderful estrogen hormones in my body taking my Yasmin for a long period of time, And then I kind of just ripped that right out of my body all at once, and it threw off my hormones like crazy. I no longer had this estrogen, and estrogen is the hormone for your skin, if there ever was a hormone for your skin. Estrogen is the beautiful skin hormone. So my body went from having all of this estrogen and, you know, flawless skin to having really high levels of androgens in my body because I no longer had those estrogens, and now my hormones were unbalanced, and I had a very strong androgen dominance after I got off the birth control pill. I knew, even though I had had an inkling before, that the hormonal changes were caused by getting off birth control. Now I knew why. I understood the hormonal changes. I understood why estrogens are good for the skin and androgens are bad for the skin usually. And this kind of led me into studying other things about the skin and how what you eat and what you do to your skin can affect your hormone levels. So this was, I guess, around the time I started realizing that dairy was bad for my skin. Again, doing this research, I came across all of these studies that were showing these links between teenagers and adults and their acne severity and dairy consumption. So dairy was one of the first things I got rid of in my diet. Before people would say like, oh, you need to cut dairy out of your diet and your acne will clear up. And I'm like,
no, it won't. I've tried getting out dairy and it doesn't work.
Again, I did not try it for any extended period of time. Cutting out dairy for one day isn't going to improve your skin. It's something you need to stick to. And of course, not everybody's skin is going to clear up from cutting out dairy. I would still recommend cutting out dairy, and for those reasons I have discussed in my book, I won't discuss here, but I would recommend cutting out dairy as your first line defense against acne. And then when I went ethical vegan, I started seeing the most changes in my skin. At this time, my skin was mostly clear, but it wasn't consistent. I would get these ridiculous fluctuations in my skin. I was super prone to these like little comedones all over my forehead. My skin was super sensitive, that anything I put on my skin was almost guaranteed to break me out, and I was constantly changing my skincare routine at this time because of this. And when I went vegan, I felt like it changed everything for my skin. My skin could be kind of like, you know, it was like clockwork. I knew what was going to happen with my skin before it happened. And the fact that I had this understanding of how acne manifests and these kind of tools that acne needs to build and what I can do to stop that process from happening, I was much more equipped to deal with any acne breakouts that I did get, or, you know, assess the situation and say, okay, if I do this, you know, it's going to help me fight acne. And if I do this, it's going to likely increase my risk of developing acne or having an acne breakout. And so I talk about in my book why things like dairy and meat are bad for your skin. I won't get into that here because it's a large issue and there's a lot of studies behind it, but I don't want this to be too much of a scientific, you know, report. I'd prefer this to be more of my story and what I did, and, you know, if you want the science behind it, it's all in my book. I'm not the type of person to make claims without evidence. All of the science supporting my choices now, not back then taking borage seed oil and all this other stuff, they're all in my book, which I will link down below. I also started making changes in my lifestyle, and this was mostly to do with stress and tanning. And I don't want to talk too much about my tanning experiences because I want to do a special video and blog post on that. So stay tuned for that. I'm super excited about it. Give this a thumbs up if you want to see a video about tanning and why I stopped. But I also made a lot of changes in my lifestyle in regards to my stress. I suffer from panic attacks, anxiety attacks. I am prone to deep depressive moments. I wouldn't say I suffer from depression, but because of my anxiety, I feel I am more prone to depressive symptoms. I'm aware, and I think that's what's super important, is that I have this level of consciousness about who I am, how I act, how I react, and how I should be handling situations. So I started kind of changing my mindset about my acne. Before, I would freak out and I would slather things on my skin in an attempt to clear it up because I'm like, acne is dirty and I don't want to be dirty and people will think I'm dirty if I have acne. And so I would really hurt my skin trying to get rid of this thing that I thought was dirty. And when I started making these lifestyle changes and diet changes and seeing these improvements in my skin, I said, I don't ever want to go back to that place. I do not ever want to feel the way I felt looking in the mirror and not recognizing who I was, or looking in the mirror and saying to myself, like, I am so sorry that you're here. And I didn't ever want to be in that place again. I started thinking of acne as kind of like a state of mind and just a present moment, like a moment that was going to pass. And so I would develop these kind of coping mechanisms, like avoiding mirrors, or, you know, doing something, immersing myself in something that would take all of my attention away. So I started volunteering more, and I started getting involved in issues that were much bigger than me, because I wanted to get my mind off of myself and think of things that were more important than the issues I was dealing with. And this isn't to undermine the issues that I was dealing with. My issues were very real, and they still are very real. But it helped me specifically to put into perspective my issues versus issues that I felt were bigger than my problems. So I would start looking at my acne and saying, you know, looking at myself and saying, Samantha, this is going to go away. Your skin is going to clear up in a couple of days. Things are going to be just like they were. It's just pimples. Nobody's looking at you. Nobody thinks you're ugly. Nobody thinks you're dirty. Don't panic. Go have some green tea. Have a nice bath. Relax. And I would talk to myself in this way, in this calm manner, and it would kind of diffuse the situation. This was opposed to the way I would handle situations in the past, where I would tell myself that things were my fault and they were my problems and I had to fix them, and I put all of this weight on myself. Whereas now I just kind of let things go. I absorb the situation. I say, yes, I have pimples, I have a breakout. There are other people around me who have beautiful skin, but they also have their, you know, issues they're dealing with. Their lives aren't perfect. My life isn't perfect, and that's okay. And taking a step back from this situation helped me cope with my acne breakouts better. I made this video because I wanted everybody with acne who, you know, is struggling to know, number one, you're not alone, that I've been there, that millions of other people have been there, and there are millions of other people right now in the same place that you're in, and that you will get through this. I guarantee you that you will get through this. You will find the answer. You will be able to cope. You will come out of this a better, stronger person, and you will be no worse for wear at the end of it all. So keep your chin up and keep pushing. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like if you like this video, and subscribe, and check out my ebook if you want some answers on all of your acne questions, and check out my blog, and find me on Snapchat, find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!